Welcome into a fresh new hour of CBS Sports HQ. I'm Jordan Giorgio. Happy Sunday. Lots on tap today. We have the final round of the Wyndham Championship, the top college football storylines to follow as fall camp gets underway. But we begin in the NFL as training camps continue across the country. And let's check into Cincinnati, where the Bengals are set to have practice today. Later in the day, our own Evan Washburn will be joining us live with the very latest on what he's observing from Cincy. But until then, let's go ahead and welcome John Breech live to CBS Sports HQ. John, always great to see you. The Bengals, as we know, locked up Shamar Stewart finally. But even if they get things done with Hendrickson, are you sold that they've made the right changes on defense for them to be competitive this year?
Well, when we look at back what the Bengals did last season, the defense was not that good. And I think maybe there was an expectation that they would completely turn over the roster this year. That's not what they did. They really only made 3 key moves. That was drafting Shamar Stewart. That was drafting Demetrius Knight in the second round. And then they signed TJ Slayton away from the Packers. Slayton, Knight, Stewart probably all be starters. So now you have 3 new starters this year, but the rest of the defense is going to look the same as it did last year. The big change, though, is obviously at defensive coordinator. Lou Anarumo is out, and now you have Al Golden in there. He was the defensive coordinator for a Notre Dame football team that played the college football national championship game in January. He's a coach who is a great teacher. He's good at developing players, and that's exactly what you want when you have a young defense like the Bengals. I got a chance to talk to Al Golden before training camp started. Just kind of asked him, after going through OTAs, after going through mandatory minicamp, is there any group in here that has surprised you? Maybe they're better than you thought. And he said, I'm not sure if I'd really use the word surprise, but I think that our secondary is going to impress a lot of people. And really, that's what's happened in training camp. That's been one of the huge stories so far, is that the secondary playing against Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, Joe Burrow, has been holding their own. They're making big plays every day, whether it's Geno Battle, Josh Newton. You just have these guys. They're not clamping down on Chase and Higgins, but they're playing impressive enough that makes you think they can compete with any other high-flying offense in the NFL, whether that's the Ravens, the Steelers. So the Bengals defense at this point looks much better right now than it did at this point in training camp last season. Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing what our boots on the ground and Evan Washburn will say of what he's really observing from that secondary, as he will be live out at Cincy from training camp today. Now, after finishing 3rd last year, 4th in the AFC North the year before, should we start talking about Zac Taylor potentially being on the hot seat, or still too soon for that? Well, it feels like a lot of people don't know what to make of Zac Taylor yet. Is he a great coach? Is he a good coach? Should he be on the hot seat? Well, he's been to the AFC title game 2 times in the past 5 years. It's hard to put a guy like that on the hot seat. And when you look at the 2023 season, Joe Burrow missed half the year, and the Bengals still finished with a winning record, which to me is an impressive coaching feat. So I think you can throw that one out the window if you're trying to use it against Zac Taylor. And then last year, the defense was just a nightmare. That is partially Taylor's fault, but he can only play with the players that he has. He doesn't make the roster. He coaches the roster. So I think if there is one thing that Zac Taylor absolutely has to improve, it is coming out of the gate to start the season. In his 6 years in Cincinnati, he is 1-11 in the first 2 weeks of the season. If you just count his Joe Burrow years, he is 1-9 in the first 2 weeks of the season. So that part is just unacceptable. So you look at who the Bengals play in the first 2 weeks of the 2025 season, you have the Browns, you have the Jacksonville Jaguars. So if they go 0-2 there, now maybe there will be some chatter that he's on the hot seat, but I don't think he has to worry about losing his job. He's under contract through 2026, and I would be stunned if he is not the coach through the end of that contract. And if they make the playoffs this year, there could be an extension coming.
All right, now you were out at Bengals camp, if I'm not mistaken, John Breech, just a few days ago. In your opinion, on offense, who was the biggest surprise to you?
Yeah, I've been out there a few times since camp started in late July, and so far, I would say we all know Jamar Chase, we know T. Higgins, Joe Burrow, all the big names. But for me, the biggest surprise so far has been Taj Brooks, a 6th-round pick out of Texas Tech. This is a guy who somehow fell all the way that far down in the draft, even though his final 2 seasons at Texas Tech, he went over 1,500 yards rushing each year. He caught over 25 passes out of the backfield in each of his final 3 seasons in college. So you look at what the Bengals are doing with their rushing attack. They essentially have 3 top guys on the depth chart. That's Chase Brown, that's Samaje Perine, and that is Brooks. He's been explosive in camp. He can catch passes out of the backfield. That's usually what Perine does. So now you can back him up. If Chase Brown gets banged up or needs to take a rest of some sort, well, guess what? Brooks has kind of that body shape. He can go in there and carry it 15 to 20 times a game. So he's really that perfect dynamic weapon to complement Perine and Brown. So I think we could see a lot of them. I know that offensive coordinator Dan Pitcher has been talking about focusing on the running game a little bit more this year. So I won't be surprised if Taj Brooks' success in training camp translates into some success in the regular season this year.
Yeah, it seems like there's a lot of question marks surrounding this team as we get set to enter this year. How competitive this defense will actually be, as we just discussed. Is Zac Taylor a really great coach or not? What are your expectations for 2025 for the Bengals?
I think if you're the Cincinnati Bengals, the Super Bowl has to be your expectations. This is a team, we know they underachieved last year. They went 9-8, but despite the defensive struggles, they still had a 1-point loss to the Chiefs, a couple close games against the Ravens, a 5-point loss to the Commanders. So they were in almost every single game they played in. If the defense just takes a small step forward, this is a team that not only will compete for AFC North title, but could be in the conversation come February when we're talking about Super Bowl 60. And I think one interesting thing about this season is that Joe Burrow last week said, hey, look, I'm throwing the football better than I've ever thrown it in my career to this point. So he's throwing it better than any training camp ever. And they also said this is the best receiving group we've had since I've been there. So this is Joe Burrow, who put up MVP level numbers last season, basically saying I can play even better because my weapons are better and I'm playing better football. So that's almost frightening to think about if you're an opposing defensive coordinator. So the Bengals should have high expectations. Their offense is top 1 or 2 in the NFL, and if their defense plays a little bit better, there's no reason this team can't make a deep postseason run in 2025.
All right, we'll see if the hype is real come week 1 as the Bengals take on the Browns in Cleveland. It's going to be fun. John Breech, always great to chat with you, my friend, here on CBS Sports HQ. But the countdown is on to NFL Sundays on CBS. There's nothing like it. You can watch your local game live on CBS or, of course, streaming on Paramount+.